And welcome back. Here's your latest California housing market update. This is because the California Association of Realtors just announced today, which is July 19th, a new housing market update regarding home prices, housing inventory, pending home sales, and of course, much, much more. Here's the actual article from the California Association of Realtors, which again was just posted today. But in my previous videos, just like this one, I did not even read it. Instead, I want to share a slideshow with you guys regarding what's happening right now. And this slideshow is actually from the Realtors Association. And stay tuned here in just a little bit because I have some detailed analysis regarding home price changes we're seeing at the statewide level here in California based on my own analysis of their data. So let's go ahead and dive right in. And by the way, if you guys get any value out of this video whatsoever, then please hit the like button. Also consider subscribing as well. I post frequent housing market updates so you guys can make a more informed decision about whether to buy or sell a house right now. And with that said, let's begin today's video. So this is based on a new report again from the California Association of Realtors. Here's a snapshot of what's happening right now, at least for the end of June this year, the most recent stats we have from them. So on a seasonally adjusted annualized basis for existing single family detached houses, by the way, unless otherwise noted in today's video, this video is based on existing houses only, excludes multifamily, and of course excludes townhomes and condos, and also new home construction as well. So for home sales this June, again, seasonally adjusted and annualized, there's 277,000 closed home sales. Again, what our housing market was like approximately 1 to 2 months ago when the home seller accepted the offer from home buyer. This is a lagging indicator of what's happening right now. In any case, so that's down by 19.7% from June of 2022. Meanwhile, home prices are down by 2.4% from 12 months ago. The median sold price in California, $838,000. Nationwide, the median sold price is actually under $400,000. So we definitely pay to live in California, right? Meanwhile, the month supply is at 2.2 months. That's a decrease of 8.3% year over year. Also, days in the market is more or less on par with last year's levels at 15 days. What this means is the time period when you list your house for sale to when you accept an offer from home buyer. That's 15 days on average this June. So that's a snapshot. And again, I'll share a lot more details regarding home prices here very, very soon. Let's first talk about home sales because home sales absolutely fell off a cliff in the summer months last year through this year. So the current levels we have right now, when looking at pre-pandemic levels, is more or less on par with 2008. Again, down by 19.7% year over year, and also a decrease of 4.1% month over month. This is of course because we have affordability issues, and of course average monthly housing payments have been increasing as well because rates have been increasing as well. Again, right now rates are around 6.9% for an average 30-year fix, according to the Mortgage News Daily as of today, which again is the 19th. So sales at the top end are slowing the fastest. I have another slide I want to share regarding this as well. But when looking at this here, this is the percent change in the number of home sales this June compared to June last year. The biggest decrease was actually in the range of 750 to 999,000, a decrease of 25%. Also, decreases of over 20% for houses that sold for over $500,000 as well. And of course, $1 million properties as well. So that's a percent change in closed home sales year over year. But here's something very, very interesting here. This is a messy chart to say the least. Just ignore these orange bars below here. Just focus on this gray line right here, as well as this blue line. Now let's first focus on this gray line right here, which is the share of $1 million houses that closed escrow. So let me repeat this. So for the month of June, 32.7% of all closed home sales this June were for home sales of over $1 million. I should say for $1 million or over. So 32.7% were for houses that sold for $1 million plus. In contrast, only 24.8% came from houses that sold for $0 to $499,000. If you guys got a free house, please let me know. But I don't know where they got $0. Let's just say less than $500,000. Approximately 25% of all closed home sales this June came from that price range. So this means in California for June, there's more closed home sales for $1 million houses than there are for houses less than $500,000. So this really impacts the median sold price in California as well, because we have more $1 million closed home sales compared to more affordable. That of course kind of skews our median sold price here in California. Here's another interesting dynamic happening right now in California as well, because for June, there was a decrease of 6.4% compared to June of 2022 regarding the number of contracts being signed for existing single-family houses, a decrease of 6.4% year over year in pending home sales. And that, by the way, is the smallest decrease in 19 months, because this number right here, or this percent here, has actually been increasing even though it's down compared to a year ago. If I had to put my real estate market fortune teller hat on, I would imagine this number right here is likely to be in positive territory in the next few months, because last year this time our housing market was slowing down big time, and because of that, I would imagine that we're probably going to see positive year-over-year changes in the number of pending home sales very, very soon, because we're not seeing this sharp increase in mortgage rates like we saw last year. This year we have very high rates, especially higher compared to a year ago, but rates haven't doubled like they did last year. So I'd imagine that pending home sales will likely get into positive territory in the next few months. Of course, a lot could change, and I'll definitely keep you posted though, of course, right? So home prices. This is something I spent a lot of time on this morning regarding changes compared to pre-COVID levels, as well as averages compared to 2010 here. So let's first talk about, as a snapshot, what's happening right now. Again, the median sold price for existing single-family houses is just over $838,000, a small increase compared to last month, a gain of 0.3%, but we're still down by 2.3% from June of 2022. So that's what they had to say regarding home prices there on that slide, right, of course. But here's my own analysis. Here's the two columns I pulled from the California Association of Realtors website here. Everything else is based on my own analysis here. So I added year-over-year changes and also month-over-month changes as well. So at $838,260, this is actually highest home prices or highest home sold prices since August last year. Back in August, the median sold price was $839,000. Now it's $838,000. That's number one. When comparing home prices this June compared to last June, we're actually down by 2.4%. When looking at the historical averages, this is the June to June each year going back to 2010. The average going back to 2010 is a gain of 9.6%, much higher than the 2.4% decrease we saw this year. I mean, how wild is that? The average change going back to 2010 is a gain of 9.6%, whereas this year it's a decrease of 2.4%. There's a couple more things I do want to mention regarding this, because home sold prices have now decreased for 8 consecutive months. Also, as a note right here, this is only the 9th time in the last 11 years in which home sold prices are down on a year-over-year basis. Now, having said that, this 2.4% decrease is actually the smallest yearly decrease since January this year. Back in January, it was only a decrease of 1.9%. The peak was right here in April, a decrease of 8.2%, much worse than the 2.4% we're seeing right now. In regards to the month-over-month change, this is of course the change from May to June. This year, it was actually a gain of 0.3%. This is actually the 4th consecutive monthly increase in the median sold price here in California. Before that, home prices fell for 6 consecutive months. For comparison's sakes, when looking at the change back in June last year, let's look at June last year. June last year, home prices decreased by 3.9%. That's when we had the very beginning phase of a correction we had last year. Last year, prices decreased by 3.9% from May last year, whereas this year we saw a gain of 0.3%. Also, interesting enough, this 0.3% decrease month over month is on par with historical averages going back to 2010, because based on my nerdy formula right here, prices on average also increased by 0.3%. But wait, there's more, because I want to look at what's the gain from February's trough. The trough was in February when we had the median sold price at $735,000. Compare that to now at $838,000. That's a gain of 14%. So the median sold price in California has increased by 14% since February this year. This is one reason why we're seeing the year-over-year changes here actually improving over the past several months. On top of that, I want to look at the changes from the peak last year. Again, the all-time record high that was set in May last year was just under $900,000, $893,000 to be exact. So when looking at price changes from May last year to June this year, it's actually a decrease of 6.2%. This is not as bad as the correction we saw last year. The correction again last year was from May to February, I should say May last year to February this year, a decrease of 17.7%. So the reason why the decrease from the all-time record high of last year to now is not as bad as the change from May to February this year is, of course, this right here. Home prices increasing by 14% ever since February this year, even though prices are still down by 2.4% on a year-over-year basis. A couple more things I do want to note on this yearly decrease of 2.4%. Again, it's much worse than the gain of 9.6% going back to 2010. But I also want to see how this compares to pre-pandemic levels. So the change in home sold prices from June 2019 to June 2020 was a gain of 2.5%. Whereas this year, from June 2022 to June 2023, a decrease of 2.4%. Then in 2018 and 19, it was a gain of 1.3%, and then a gain of 8.5% in 2017 to 2018. So big picture, the decrease we saw this year compared to last year is much worse than historical averages as well as pre-pandemic levels as well. One thing it's actually not as bad though is the changes in home sold prices from June 2008 to June 2009. That was a decrease of a whopping 26.4%. So to summarize this here, even though prices are down by 6% from the all-time record highs that was set back in May last year, it's better than the 18% correction from February to May this year. If you guys are looking to buy a house in California, obviously it's a positive sign to see that prices are down slightly compared to 1 year ago. However, I would be doing you a disservice by not saying this as well. When looking at home sold prices compared to 3 years ago, they're up by 34%. All right, I know that was a lot to cover in today's video regarding home prices, so here's a brief summary for you guys as well. Number one, the month-to-month changes tell a completely different story when looking at yearly changes. So prices have increased for 4 consecutive months, and of course up by 14% since February this year, yet prices are still down by 2.4% from 1 year ago. Number two, even though prices have increased significantly this year, the 6% decrease since May 2022, again, that was the all-time record high, is still much worse than historical averages going back to 2010, as well as yearly changes in 2018, 19, and 20. Number three, despite last year's correction, again, down by about 18%, it's still up a whopping 34% over the past 3 years. Number four, if inventory or the number of houses for sale remains limited and rates do not surge like they did last year, again, rates more than doubled in less than 12 months last year, and of course that really cooked our housing market. So if inventory remains limited and rates do not surge like it did last year, this will likely put upward pressure on prices. I expect to see year-over-year changes in home prices improve because prices fell off a cliff in the second half of last year. And we likely will not see that this year because rates so far have stabilized. In contrast, rates were skyrocketing last year, and that's why our housing market was directly impacted by the rise in mortgage rates. It's possible to see positive price growth year over year in the next couple of months because of this. So I'm predicting here that we'll see positive increases in home sold prices here very, very soon because our housing market was tanking big time from June last year, really all the way until we hit November last year. So to me, I'm actually really excited to see what July, August, and September look like because, again, last year the housing market was falling greatly. This year, again, up by 0.3% this June and down by 3.9% last year. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens here. And of course, I'll definitely keep you posted. All right, let's get back to this slideshow from the California Association of Realtors. And please leave me a comment below because this right here takes me hours to make each and every month. So if you guys like that analysis or you don't, please leave me a comment below. All right, let's get back here. So this is the only slide I'm gonna cover in today's video that's talking about condos and townhomes. So for the month of June this year, the median sold price for condos and townhomes in California was $650,000. 1 year ago, it was $655,000. Also, a lot of people ask about the price per square foot, which personally I'm not a big fan of because the price per square foot only is pertaining to the size of the house. So if you have the same size house on a very large lot versus a same size house on a very small lot, the price per square foot is going to be totally off because it does not account for lot sizes. But for those of you who do like to see price per square foot, here you go. It remains very, very high, especially compared to the past several years, or especially compared to pre-pandemic levels. The price per square foot this June was $414,000, a slight increase from last month, still down by 2.1% year over year though. Meanwhile, the sales price to final list price ratio is flat from last month at 100%, meaning home sellers this June as well as this May sold their houses on average for their asking price. This is down compared to a year ago though, down by 1.3%. Also, this is the share of houses selling above the seller's final list price. This June, it was 51.2%. Not too much far off last year's level at 50.8%, but much lower than the peak that was set back in April 2022 when our housing market was just absolutely insane. Anyways, back in April last year, the ratio was 73%, meaning 73% of all closed home sales last April sold above the seller's final list price. This is definitely something you guys should be aware of as well, because when you hear that prices are down compared to 12 months ago, you would assume that it's actually cheaper to buy a house. In contrast though, it's actually just the opposite though. So 1 year ago, June 2022, the average rate, I believe this is according to Freddie Mac, was 5.52%. This June, it's 6.71%. So even though prices are down by 2.4% year over year, your average monthly housing payment has increased by 10.7%. So despite the fact that prices are down, your average monthly housing payment is up by nearly 11% because rates have increased by about 1.2 percentage points. Let's change gears slightly here and talk about housing inventory. So the month supply right now is 2.2 months. 1 year ago, it was 2.4 months. Pretty wild to see that the month supply is lower today compared to 1 year ago. It's very, very low at 2.2 months. Obviously, much lower than 2006 to 2009. The peak was in 2007, 2008, when the month supply was 16 months. Absolutely insane. Now it's only 2.2 months. Part of the reason why the month supply is so low is due to the fact we have a low amount of houses for sale. As you can see right here, this June, lower than last year's levels, but way lower than 2018 and 2019. This to me is a little bit hard to read. So instead, I want to show you altosresearch.com for the state of California here. So according to them, there's approximately, this is a little bit more updated than the California Association of Realtors, but for the 7 days ended July 14th, there was around 30,000 houses for sale in California. 1 year ago at this time, it was around 46,000. But when looking at pre-pandemic levels, at 30,000 right now, this is well below 2019 at this time, when there's around 66,000 houses for sale. This means we have approximately 55% fewer homes for sale this July compared to July of 2019. Also roughly on par with 2018 as well, because back in late July 2018, there was around 64,000 houses for sale. This, of course, is one of the main reasons why home prices are still increasing due to a lack of supply. And also, we're not seeing this giant surge of inventory levels like we saw last year. I mean, look at this. Let me just zoom in here so it's easier to see. So in, what was this? The beginning of January 2022, there was only 16,552 houses for sale. But by the time we hit mid-July, there was 46,000 houses for sale. This means that housing inventory nearly tripled in the first 7 months of 2022, which absolutely shocked the housing market. This year, entirely different story, because let's just go January 6th this year, approximately 31,000 houses for sale. Now there's only 29,293. Therefore, we have fewer houses for sale right now to start the year, whereas last year, inventory nearly tripled. One of the main reasons why we're seeing a lack of houses for sale in California is this right here. New listings this June fell by 29.4% from June of 2022. And on top of that, we now have had 12 consecutive months of decreases of new listings on a year-over-year basis. 1 year of decreases of new listings from the previous 1 year. This June, approximately 20,000 new listings. 1 year ago, over 28,000. Compare this to pre-pandemic levels. Back in 2019, for example, there was over 30,000 new listings. Now there's only 20,000. So by my dumb math, that's a decrease of 34% in the number of new listings compared to 2019, and a decrease of 29% from 2022's levels. Also, one of the reasons why we're seeing an inventory remaining at low levels is this right here as well, because here is a look at new listings versus closed home sales. So new active means new listings in blue, in orange is closed home sales. So as you can see, for the vast majority of this year, we've had slightly more new listings than closed home sales. So barely filling up the bucket of the houses actually closed escrow, right? So for June, there was 20,168 new listings, and there's 17,612 closed home sales. That's why inventory levels are only increasing slightly compared to previous months here. This is vastly different compared to the spring months of 2022, where new listings far surpass closed home sales. And that's why inventory, or one of the reasons why inventory levels started to increase greatly in the spring months last year. In contrast, look at 2020 and 2021. Far more closed home sales than new listings. And that's one reason why housing inventory was at very, very low levels in 2020 and 2021. As you can see right here, inventory levels in 2021 and 2020 were very, very low, especially compared to pre-pandemic levels. Okay, let's talk about how fast or how slow houses are selling in the state of California. This June, it took about 15 days to sell a house. 1 year ago, it was 14 days. Days in the market has been more or less decreasing every single month this year. Also, the share of price reductions is at 30.2%, meaning on average that 3 of every 10 houses for sale have reduced their asking prices, which is very low compared to the giant increases we saw in the last half of last year when the ratio surpassed 45%. Here's a little bit easier way of looking at this here. The numbers here kind of vary a little bit, but this is altosresearch.com. So for the 7 days ended July 14th, the share price drops was 27%, much lower than the 34% we saw 1 year ago. Also, look at this. I mean, the share price drops were skyrocketing last year. The trough was in early March at 13%, but by the time we hit mid-July, it was at 34%. Much different than the percentage we're seeing today, because the trough was in May this year at around 23%. Now it has only increased to around 27%. But at 27%, this is actually still lower than pre-pandemic levels in 2019 at 34%, and in late July 2018 at also about 33% as well. And with that said, please comment below with your biggest takeaways from today's video. Also, if you guys got any value out of this video whatsoever, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. Of course, I appreciate you. Hope you guys have an awesome day. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.